Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Derek Dorado. I'm the Vice President of Enterprise Solutions here at AZZLY, and I'm your moderator for today's 30-minute webinar. Next slide, please, Andrew. Our panelists today are Stephen Lee, Zoom Head of ISV Business Development and Strategy, and secondly, Maria Gray, LPN AZZLY Product Manager and Lead On-Site Implementation Specialist. So again, welcome, and thank you for joining us today. Our key points of discussion today will be the benefits of launching Zoom within your EHR, one platform for your telehealth model of success. We'll be talking about reliability, privacy and security, user-friendliness, and seamless functionality. Just a reminder that we will have a Q&A at the end of the webinar. Submit any questions you have in the Q&A pop-up, and we will answer them at the end. Okay, so let's get started now. Over the last 3 years, it's been a whirlwind, not just for everyone, but for the industry and for its adoption of telehealth for healthcare services. Telehealth has become an accepted and much valued new care model. Intuitively, we all believe that technology can help grow a strong telehealth program. Having the ability to serve individuals at home, school, or at their office virtually, this can expand access and introduce a model of care that you may not have considered to develop or realize that these services are reimbursable. Today, we'll be focusing on Zoom and having a telehealth model that is reliable, secure, user-friendly, and that has a seamless functionality. So let's start with Stephen. Stephen, first off, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, Stephen. So Zoom has been the preferred video conferencing system for our staff for almost a decade now. After the last 3 years, though, Zoom has really become the standard for everybody. So Stephen, tell us why Zoom is the ideal solution for a healthcare organization that wants to make virtual meetings the cornerstone of their business model.
Yeah, for sure. So, it all starts at where the root of our company has been, right? The foundation of how and why Zoom was started in the first place. So if you look back in 2011, when Eric was frustrated with the landscape of what was available out there for video conferencing, it was always a dream of his to have a startup to solve a big problem in the world that he could personally address, right? And with his expertise in video and his desire to build something new that really changed the landscape in terms of reliability and quality, he decided to found Zoom. So, back then, Zoom wasn't as well known, wasn't a verb yet, but the foundation of it was having that easy to use, it just works mentality, right? All the other video conferencing solutions back then, even speaking from my own experience, right? When I was back at Oracle using another solution by a competitor we won't name, we could never even get it started. So we always ended up using a telephone conference line instead, right? It was just not intuitive, not reliable, and users couldn't easily get onboarded. So, the mission started back then, and since then we've made a lot of innovation around other pieces of the platform too, to continue to make it easier to use, whether it's the live transcriptions to make it easier for folks who have disabilities to leverage the platform. We spent the entire year in 2020 focusing on security to make it the most secure platform in the space. So during that time we paused on all other feature focus and just focused on making sure it's the most secure platform with full end-to-end encryption, right? So through all of that, right, Zoom is focused now on seeing where we can partner with other software companies like AZZLY, who have a use case where they want to provide that video in their own platform to their own customers, and we want to partner with these companies to deliver the same happiness that we've delivered over the last 13 years, right? Like all the other players, you don't know that if they'll be here around in the next few years, but Zoom is really here to stay and focus on being the best video platform. And of course, part of that is HIPAA compliance, right? And making sure we provide all the tools that allow these telehealth providers like AZZLY to maintain a highly compliant platform. So our focus has, customer obsession, customer happiness, and then of course that means delivering it through our partners like EHRs like yourself, right?
Well said there. Stephen, you got to admit, when you say the word Zoom, everyone knows what you're talking about. It's like when you say football, you think NFL. When you think tissue, you think Kleenex. So it's impressive, the brand recognition. It's impressive what Zoom has done over the last few years. And when it comes to telehealth, is Zoom still looking to add more features and functionality to the web version and to assist providers of care? Is that something on the forefront?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good and bad thing to be a verb, right? Some people are tired of being at home and stuck on video. Others are, see it as a godsend that we have this ability to all connect virtually, right? So, of course, we're continuing to also invest heavily in vertical focus as well, in addition to our platforms. In terms of our SDKs and our developer tools that, enable companies like AZZLY to embed our solution within your own platform, right? We have we've shifted the entire product and engineering orgs directly under our CTO to focus exactly on what you're saying, right? On improving and continuing to build out the features that are available in our other platforms, whether it's our web platform or our native SDKs and APIs. It's one of our key pillars of growth for us, and we see it as a big area of focus on the engineering and product front too.
Excellent. Thank you, Stephen. So with that being said, I'll transition it to you, Maria. From your perspective as a product manager and as a clinician that trains staff to use telehealth and EHR, AZZLY to be specific, could you also speak about reliability, privacy, security, and particularly from a clinical standpoint?
Absolutely. Thank you, Derek. As you know, AZZLY is proud to provide over 99% uptime. So providers and patients can count on having the services available that are needed and depended upon on a regular basis, whether they're meeting in person or virtually. In terms of privacy and security, AZZLY and Zoom pair wonderfully together to offer peace of mind on both fronts. When appointments are scheduled in AZZLY, the patient denotes whether they prefer to receive the reminders or notifications via email or SMS text message based on the information that they provide. And as Stephen mentioned, Zoom is HIPAA compliant, so both parties can feel comfortable with the security and privacy of their session. Even in the event that other parties may be invited to a meeting, those other parties will remain in a private waiting room until both the provider and the patient are ready for them to join. Sessions are kept confidential and private. They are not recorded in AZZLY, nor are they stored in AZZLY or the Zoom databases. So the privacy, confidentiality, and reliability within telehealth sessions as partnered via AZZLY and Zoom is definitely one that users can count on.
Very good, Maria. That makes sense to us, and that's exactly what our customers and potential customers share with us as well. So with that being said, next let's look at user friendliness and the importance of that, Maria. Can you talk a little bit more about the user friendliness?
Absolutely, I would love to. Offering telehealth services expands mental health services by offering availability that is more flexible in terms of timing and location than those sessions limited to in-person attendance only. We saw that COVID really proved to be a strong catalyst to expanding telehealth services to both providers and consumers, and broaden the familiarity and the comfort level of these remote services. This has offered a great advantage for treatment centers and providers alike, in that therapists, counselors, psychiatrists, physicians, they're able to expand their services and provide a more pure telehealth experience or in combination of in-person or virtual visits. This has proven to be a scalable model, Derek, for both mental health and substance use disorder treatment programs alike. This has allowed them to expand their programs they offer and the clients they see, all while lowering their overhead also. A great benefit of partnering with Zoom for AZZLY is that it allows providers and patients to engage through a name they're already familiar with. As you mentioned, Kleenex, NFL. I would personally go with SEC, Derek, but you already know that. But they have a name they're already familiar with. And that they have a reasonable comfort level with, as well as some familiarity with as far as features. And this makes transitioning to telehealth a less scary one. Our Zoom integration makes it easy to host one-on-one sessions as well as group sessions. And we also have the ability to easily schedule recurring meetings, whether individual or group. So it really completes an all-in-one solution, whether you're in person or as we're moving forward in time, these telehealth visits.
Some excellent points that you bring up, Maria, and I'll just want to hone in on the third one there. Something that's so unique within the behavioral health, mental health, and substance use disorder industry is that the providers not only do one-on-one sessions, but group sessions as well. And that's something that Zoom and the integration within AZZLY and Zoom makes it possible for those providers to host those group sessions that we know are essential for residential care, for IOP, OP, PHP, many levels of care and programs. So excellent there, Maria. So let's take it a step further. Just speaking about Zoom, right? Not just as a video conferencing system, but a telehealth solution. Their established compliance and HIPAA protocol make them a valuable asset to providers. And having a system that's user-friendly, as Maria was talking about, both to the provider and to the patient, is key to a successful telehealth model. And with Zoom, the system is very easy to use, and most people in the healthcare space have become familiar with it, right, over the last few years. So expanding telehealth services is much less scary now than what it was 3 years ago when the pandemic first occurred. With that being said, let's go ahead and transition to the third discussion point now. And the third point is seamless functionality. So Maria, will you demonstrate for our attendees what a seamless integration of Zoom within the EHR looks like to a user and the value to providers in this space?
Absolutely. With your participation, if you don't mind, Derek, I will go ahead and share my screen. So that now you should be able to see my AZZLY calendar, correct?
Correct.
Excellent. So I do already have a few appointments scheduled on my calendar. One of those is a telehealth session that I will join momentarily with Derek, but I will also just show that it is easy to create an appointment, whether individual or group, simply by selecting on the calendar which I prefer. I have the ability to add one or multiple patients and then select the appointment type. You can see that many of our types may be set up with billing codes, they may be description only. That is up to our clients on how they prefer to set up those appointment types. And then recurring meetings. I mentioned earlier that it's very easy to schedule a recurring meeting. You can schedule it by the recurring basis of daily, weekly, or monthly, and select when I would like for it to end, after a certain number of sessions or on a specific date. But then the main point of today's conversation, of course, is how to make it a Zoom meeting. And it's as simple as clicking the Make It a Zoom Meeting button, so that once I create my appointment, it will then immediately send an email, or if the patient has selected not to receive emails and may just prefer an SMS reminder a couple of days before their appointment, that is all within the configuration of the system. But either way, a link will be sent to the patient for them to join. So when I am ready to launch my meeting, simply click on the appointment itself and select telehealth. I may want to go ahead and check in my appointment first before I do that, so that I can get my documentation started by opening an encounter. And I'm doing this part so that you can see momentarily what that will look like once the Zoom meeting is launched. So by clicking telehealth, you'll notice that I have a second tab open in my window. Now, when this second tab opens, it's going to ask for me to enter my name, so I can provide the name that I would like to have displayed within my meeting. And then I can choose how I would like to join audio, or if I would like to start my video. I'm going to leave my audio off, Derek, for the purpose of this, since we're already in a Zoom webinar.
Sure.
I can go ahead and launch the video. Actually, it looks like it's being used in our webinar as well. I can correct that if needed, but otherwise I will join the meeting. And then once the meeting is started, you'll see that at the bottom of my screen, I have a ribbon very similar to what you're used to seeing. As we mentioned, that familiarity and comfort with Zoom that users already have. So at the bottom of the screen, I have some settings that I can launch. You'll notice that my patient is not yet in my meeting. We'll see momentarily when he joins, but I have some settings that I can adjust. So whether I would like to look at my video or my audio settings or choose a virtual background, I can do so. Then I can choose reactions. So if we're speaking and I would like to add a reaction or raise my hand, this is especially helpful in a group session. Oh, I see that my participant is joining. So you can see that he is actually in the waiting room at the moment. But I can choose to view my waiting room and or admit him from here. So I'm going to admit Benjamin Banner to my Zoom call. Going back to the reactions, you'll notice that the raise hand I was saying is very helpful with groups, especially that way when you have multiple participants who are trying to join, they can do so easily through that. We have the ability to use closed captioning, which is great for ADA. If you're meeting with those who may have any sort of disability. And then of course you have your familiar chat, share screen functionality, and to view your participants. So it was as quick as scheduling the meeting and asking my participant to join that we were able to continue with this telehealth session. Okay. I stopped my video. Actually, I was just starting mine as you turned yours off, Derek. I was going to go ahead and start my video on our Zoom telehealth so that we can demonstrate how easy it is for provider and patient to see each other when meeting.
Sure thing.
Okay.
I will be rejoining then.
Excellent. You do also have some security options available, and it is very easy when looking at the participant list if you need to invite someone. It's as simple as clicking invite, and then you will either be able to share the meeting ID or send an invite through a familiar email service that is connected. So Derek, we have a lot to talk about on today's session. How are you doing? Just kidding. So great session today. That's as simple as it is in AZZLY. Now, before I stop sharing my screen, I would like to go back to my calendar using my other tab. Just to note, as I started to a moment ago, that if I wanted to have my encounter open for my documentation, this is especially helpful if you have multiple screens available so that you could have your documentation on one monitor and your patient on the other. We are in two separate tabs. So I can be completing my documentation while meeting with my patient in live time. Okay.
Couldn't be easier than that, right? Thank you, Maria. Excellent.
Thank you.
Yep, of course. And so ease of use is there as was just demonstrated by Maria. And I'll reshare my camera so you can see me now. But another important talking point is user feedback, right? That's our entire system was created through user feedback. I'm sure Zoom's was as well. So let's start with you, Stephen, there. How important is user feedback to Zoom?
Yeah, essentially similar approach that you guys are taking, right? I think I'd say maybe 80% of the features that we roll out are based on user feedback and requests, right? So we always want to focus first on what people are asking for. Instead of building product first, we always build customer first. And then that applies to partnerships as well, right? So when our partners are building an integrated product like AZZLY, we're always looking to continue to improve that integration and find ways to become even closer in terms of that workflow. But user feedback, there's some funny stories, right? That people would ping Eric, our CEO, whether it's LinkedIn or email, back with pre-COVID, but when he had a lot more extra time, if you pinged him and had a request for a certain feature, some people would come back in a month or two and find that feature already built out and added to the Zoom client. So it's again core to our philosophy in terms of how to work with our customers and keep them happy.
Very good there. Thank you, Stephen. Maria, how about to you, and how about to AZZLY?
Well, I feel like Stephen stole a little bit of what I was going to say, Derek, but I'm glad to know that we're in a partnership with an organization that develops based on the same manner that we do. And that is, we don't pretend to know everything that there is to know about the future of medicine, the future of EHRs. We listen to our clients, to our organizations that work with us for their feedback. What are their needs? Because this is an ever-evolving environment. And so hearing that feedback from our clients, what features they feel would benefit them in these changing times, especially whether it's changing times technology-wise or as different, criteria are needed by, whether we're talking CARF, Joint Commission, whatever other accrediting organizations, we're always working to develop accordingly so that the features that we're focusing on offering with AZZLY meet those ever-changing needs for our clients.
Wonderful. So Maria and Stephen, thank you so much. If you could hang in there for questions, that would be fantastic, because now I would like to turn the call over to the founder and CEO of AZZLY, Coletta Dorado. Coletta?
Great, thank you, Derek. Great job, and Stephen and Maria, so wonderful to have you on. Really appreciate your participation, both of you. It's amazing. There's 153 million people living in areas that can't get the healthcare service that they deserve and that they need. So telehealth is growing exponentially, and we're really pleased to be part of that partnership with Zoom to bring telehealth to more and more treatment centers throughout the United States. So really appreciate this partnership. As far as questions, Derek, you monitor Q&A in case anything does come in, but
Sure.
We did get some really great questions in advance. And HIPAA obviously is very important, as both Stephen and Maria know, in the healthcare arena. So the question is around acceptable virtual formats that use and that are HIPAA approved. So Stephen, any comments in regard to that as far as what Zoom follows as far as strict HIPAA compliance?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first thing is that we always sign a BAA with our partners who are building on our platform. So we want to make sure that there's some peace of mind there, and that our entire infrastructure is HIPAA ready and HIPAA compliant, so that when our partners do build on it, they have all the tools that they need to likewise be compliant with whatever laws that they need to meet.
Yeah, great. And Stephen, you mentioned it earlier, 2020 was a rough year. It was an explosive year with COVID going on, and you're focused on security. We stood by and watched. Being an electronic medical record, we erred on the side of caution. Our partnership with Zoom, even though we use you as an organization, we did not embed you in our electronic health record. You've proven to us through all that you've done towards security, privacy, your features, your functionality. I mean, the feedback we get, there isn't a platform that's as strong as Zoom, and love the fact that you are a verb. Says a heck of a lot. So Maria, as far as the features that you're impressed upon that you've seen in Zoom since we embedded it in AZZLY that really follow along HIPAA lines.
Absolutely. So allowing attendees, or I'm sorry, hosts, I should say, to mute attendees or to remove someone if needed, if there was anything inappropriate. Having the private waiting room to ensure that only those who should join are able to join the meeting. And then, of course, Chloe, we also, just going back to the virtual formats, we strongly encourage, we train our users and hope that they'll pass it on to others, to just watch out for their own privacy. Don't launch the meeting in a public place. Make sure that you have a private space or an office where you're meeting, so that your meeting, because it is in a telehealth format, is kept private as though it would be in an office environment.
Great, thank you. So Another question that came in, Maria, was about many times the telehealth session is started and a family member, the provider would like to have a family member join that they hadn't invited. How easy is that to do?
Great question. I did demo this a little bit earlier, and so we're not limited on that, but within the Zoom meeting itself and the attendee list, you can actually click invite, and there are a few options that are offered. You could either select to email directly. So if you already have an email configured within your system and you want to launch directly from there, you can. You can also copy the meeting URL so that you can paste it, whether through email or text, to someone else. You're also able to simply provide that meeting ID if someone called and they said, hey, I'm trying to join this meeting and it's asking me for a meeting ID. So you have multiple ways that you are able to include others. But again, they will be kept in a waiting room until both the provider and the patient are ready for them to be admitted.
Got it, got it. A question just popped up. I see, are BAA agreements free? I will share that as a partner of Zoom, it is bundled in our pricing model, being a partner of Zoom. So the BAA, we have BAAs with all of the clients that use our subscription services, use AZZLY Rize. We have a BAA with them. AZZLY has the BAA with Zoom, so that umbrella of a BAA protects all of our users. Stephen, you want to comment at all about that?
No, I think you got it right on the head.
Okay, wonderful, great on that. As far as Stephen, what security does Zoom have in place to prevent unauthorized attendees from joining? I know in 2020 there was a lot going on with that. What has Zoom done to prevent that from happening again?
Yeah, for sure. So, in 2020, we focused on end-to-end encryption first and foremost, right? With full 256 GCM encryption for all our meetings, right? Highest levels of security across any platform that you'll see. I think a lot of the, instances of, unfortunate instances that you maybe see in the news are from people sharing out their link to an actual meeting.
Sure.
So, with our partners, right, we have certain APIs and capabilities that allow you to set up meetings and join meetings without even having to send out a link or having to share that out, right? It can be a click of the button, it can be account unaware for folks to join in. We also introduced different tools like just managing users in general, being able to kick them out more easily, the waiting rooms where you can admit the people that are supposed to be there and not let the other ones in if they don't seem familiar. But I think a lot of it has to do with just protecting those meeting links. The rest of it, we've done our best to make as secure as humanly possible, and we continue to find other ways to make it even better.
Excellent, great. As we're close to our 2:30, our 30 minutes, one last question for you, Stephen. Is healthcare becoming a growing piece of Zoom's overall business?
I would say it's a huge part of it today. We have our own dedicated healthcare teams that are out there focused on working with providers. We have a very large ecosystem of great telehealth partners that are powering their platforms with us, and we see it as also transformative industry, right? That won't be going back to all in person once everyone has experienced that convenience through platforms like AZZLY, right? So unlike other industries like education, where you see folks going back to school in person, that make more sense to have that in-person engagement. And a lot of these telehealth sessions where, to your point about people being in geographies that just don't have good access to good doctors, it just makes a lot of sense to continue to expand on this in terms of an industry. And I think it'll help improve a lot of outcomes as well. So that's why we're focused on healthcare as an industry in general.
Excellent. Stephen and Maria, thank you so much for today. And Derek as moderator, really appreciated your participation. We're thrilled to be a partner of Zoom, and we look forward to sharing and educating more and more providers out there of the ease of use, the reliability, security, privacy. It's bundled, it's packaged well, and it's proven itself to really help in the healthcare, especially when it comes to HIPAA. Meeting HIPAA demands. So thank you for all the efforts, and thank all your cohorts behind you. If anyone is interested in learning more about telehealth and reimbursement side, we want to invite you to join us next month for our Telehealth RCM webinar. That is scheduled for April 20th at 2 p.m. Eastern time. There is an Eventbrite link that will be shared. Please add us to your social media, follow us. We really appreciate your taking the time today in attending and joining. Please give us feedback if there's anything that you want to hear or see or learn about that we can assist you with. We're planning to do these webinars at least once a month. So again, thank you all. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, attendees, and have a wonderful rest of your day.